I need a kidney. Those 4 words hit a lot differently tonight than they did when Alley Boy first said them. At the time, fans looked at that interview as a sign of hope. They believed there was still time. Time for a transplant. Time for his health to improve. Time for him to eventually return to music. But tonight, those same words have become heartbreaking.
Got kidney failure from drinking codeine. It f***ed up my kidneys. You know what I mean? Like, I need a kidney right now.
According to multiple people close to him, Atlanta rapper Alley Boy has reportedly passed away after a long and very public battle with kidney failure. Within minutes, social media exploded. Fans began reposting old interviews, old songs, old pictures, and trying to process the news that another familiar face from Atlanta's mixtape era was reportedly gone. And for a lot of people, this wasn't just another rapper. This was Alley Boy, one of the original faces of Duct Tape Entertainment, a movement that helped shape Atlanta street music long before streaming numbers and social media followers became everything. But here's the part that makes this story even more difficult. Just a short time ago, Alley Boy was sitting beside Big Bank talking about everyone they'd already lost, not himself. They talked about trouble. They talked about Duct Tape Dave. They talked about watching their circle slowly get smaller over the years. Nobody watching that interview imagined they were looking at what would become one of Alley Boy's final long-form conversations.
Why the f we still here?
Is my time coming? Like, is all of getting knocked or something? Like, I be thinking like that.
And today, that interview feels completely different. When the clip first aired, people focused on the stories. Today, people are listening to every word because hindsight changes everything. One message in particular stood out as fans continued reacting across social media. Trouble's mother shared a heartfelt post saying she never imagined the last conversation she had with Alley Boy would actually be their final conversation. Those words hit home for a lot of people because most of us never know when we're speaking to someone for the last time. At nearly the same time, Big Bank shared an old duct tape photograph. At first glance, it looked like any other throwback picture. Friends standing together, smiling, young, confident. But once fans started looking closer, the picture became something else. Several of the people standing in that photograph are no longer here. Suddenly, it wasn't just a memory anymore. It became a reminder of how much this group has been through. And perhaps that's what makes Alley Boy's reported passing so emotional. It's not simply about losing an artist. It's about watching another piece of an era slowly disappear. But the saddest part is that Alley Boy had already been preparing fans for this battle. He wasn't hiding it. He talked about it publicly.
So it was like I was drinking poison the whole time and didn't know. You know what I mean? And I ended up falling out one day after drinking it. So I went in the hospital. They were telling me then that my kidney was damaged. And I didn't change up a lot of shit. I should have changed up, like eating and shit like that. You know what I mean? A lot of stuff. It's a lot. And I ain't changed it up the way I should have. So eventually my shit failed. And now, you know what I mean? I got kidney failure.
So how is that like day to day for you now, like health-wise?
I do dialysis.
He told people exactly what was happening to his body, and what he revealed made many fans realize just how serious his condition had become. When he said those words, most people still believed the story would have a different ending. Unfortunately, it didn't. And what Alley Boy revealed next may have been the most honest interview of his entire career. What makes this story different from so many others is that Alley Boy wasn't trying to pretend everything was okay. He wanted people to know what he was facing. Over the last several years, fans noticed he looked different. He had lost weight. He wasn't nearly as active. People started asking questions. Eventually, Alley Boy answered them himself. He revealed he was battling kidney failure, not rumors, not speculation. His own words. Watching that interview today is difficult, not because of what he said, but because we now know how serious the situation really was. He explained that dialysis had become part of his everyday life. While many fans were waiting on new music, Alley Boy was spending hours receiving treatments just to keep his body going. Think about that. Most people only saw the Instagram posts, the interview pictures. They never saw what happened once the cameras stopped rolling. Hospital visits and treatments, doctor's appointments, waiting, hoping and praying that a kidney would become available. Then came another moment that caught a lot of people by surprise. Alley Boy openly admitted that years of drinking codeine had affected his health. He wasn't saying it to get attention. He wasn't trying to go viral. He was trying to warn people. He explained that when he was younger, he never imagined those choices could eventually change his life forever. That's a conversation we don't hear very often. In hip-hop, people usually hear about the lifestyle, the success, the money, the jewelry, but they rarely hear someone openly discuss the consequences after the camera stopped rolling. That's one reason so many fans respected Alley Boy. He didn't hide behind an image. He told the truth, even when it wasn't easy. Looking back now, those interviews almost feel like a message, not just to his fans, but to anyone who believes they're invincible. And while Alley Boy was fighting one of the biggest battles of his life, he was also dealing with another kind of pain. The pain of watching the people closest to him disappear. Because before today's heartbreaking news, there was trouble. And losing Trouble changed the entire Duct Tape family. For longtime Atlanta hip-hop fans, there's one name that immediately comes to mind when they hear Alley Boy: Trouble. The two weren't just artists from the same city. They weren't just label mates. They were family. Long before Trouble became known across the country, he was already around the duct tape movement every single day. According to Alley Boy, Trouble was around the crew so much that eventually they looked at him and said, "You're duct tape." There wasn't some big announcement. No paperwork, no publicity stunt. It happened because of loyalty. Because that's what duct tape was built on. The friendship between Alley Boy and Trouble lasted for years. They made music together, performed together, celebrated wins together, and like any real family, they also went through difficult times together. Then everything changed. In June of 2022, Trouble lost his life. Atlanta was shocked, not just because another respected rapper was gone, but because people who grew up watching duct tape suddenly realized this wasn't the same movement they remembered. One by one, the faces were disappearing. Looking back today, that interview is incredibly difficult to watch because you can hear the emotion in Alley Boy's voice. You can tell Trouble wasn't simply another rapper to him. He was a brother, someone he'd grown up with, someone who helped build one of Atlanta's most respected independent movements. And here's what makes today's news even harder to accept. Only weeks before his reported passing, Alley Boy and Big Bank sat together remembering Trouble, remembering Duct Tape Dave, remembering the people they wished were still here. Neither of them knew that fans would soon be replaying that same interview after losing Alley Boy too. That's the part that stays with you. Life rarely tells us when something is happening for the last time. You don't know it's the last interview. You don't know it's the last laugh. You don't know it's the last picture. You only realize it after everything changes. And for Big Bank, that's become an all too familiar feeling. Because when he shared that old duct tape photograph after the news broke, fans immediately started doing something almost nobody expected. They weren't looking at who was in the picture. They were counting who wasn't here anymore. Trouble, Duct Tape Dave, Big Nut, now Alley Boy. A single photograph had suddenly become a timeline of loss. Think about that. Years ago, that picture represented the future. Today, it represents memories. For Big Bank, this wasn't just another tribute post. It was another goodbye to someone who helped build the movement from the very beginning. And that's why so many people across Atlanta have connected with this story. It's bigger than one artist. It's about watching an entire era slowly fade away. But even with all of that heartbreak, there's one part of Alley Boy's legacy that deserves to be remembered just as much as the music. Because before he reportedly passed away, he made a decision that may end up helping people he never even met. As fans continue remembering Alley Boy, one thing has become impossible to ignore. He never tried to hide what he was going through. There was a time when most artists would have kept a battle like this private, but Alley Boy chose to speak about it. He talked about dialysis. He talked about needing a kidney. He talked about hoping a transplant would give him another chance. Looking back now, those interviews have become much more than conversations. They've become part of his legacy, because someone watching those interviews today may finally decide to take their own health seriously. Someone may finally make that doctor's appointment. Someone may finally check on a friend they've been meaning to call. Sometimes we don't realize the impact of our words until long after we're gone. And Alley Boy's honesty may end up helping people he never even met. But beyond the health battle, beyond the music, and beyond the headlines, there's one image that keeps coming back. That old duct tape photograph. When it was taken, it represented the future. A group of young men chasing the same dream, building something they believed would last forever. Nobody in that picture was thinking about memorial posts. Nobody imagined fans would someday be looking back, trying to remember everyone who used to be standing there. Today, that same photograph tells a completely different story. Not because the smiles have changed, but because time has. Some of the people in that picture are no longer here. And now, Alley Boy has reportedly become another painful reminder of just how quickly life can change. For many Atlanta hip-hop fans, Duct Tape Entertainment wasn't just another rap label. It represented an era that helped shape Atlanta street music, introduced unforgettable artists, and created memories that fans still talk about decades later. Alley Boy was one of the people who helped build that legacy. Whether you knew him from the mixtape days, his music, his interviews, or simply from the outpouring of love you've seen across social media today, his impact reached much further than most people realize. As more confirmed information becomes available, we'll continue following this story and provide updates when appropriate. Until then, we want to send our condolences to Alley Boy's family, his friends, Big Bank, the family of Trouble, and everyone connected to Duct Tape Entertainment. And maybe the hardest part of this entire story is remembering how this video began. I need a kidney. When Alley Boy first said those words, fans believed there would be another chapter, another interview, another song, another comeback. Tonight, those words mean something entirely different. Rest peacefully, Alley Boy, and thank you for the music, the memories, and your honesty.